Hello, it is good to see you all. It is Tuesdays with Schwartz. I am your host, D. Scott Schwartz. And if you don't know me and you are new to this live broadcast, I am a career educator. I'm an expert in education. I have 20 years in the game, inside the system, K to 12. Basically, this is what I do now. I consult with the school districts. I also help teachers be able to develop their skills. So, what we're going to talk about today is the educational system, is it perfect the way it is? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. So one of the things that I did was I actually wrote an article on LinkedIn, and so I'm going to actually, kind of talk about it. And one of the things that I did was I actually asked the community, what do you think? Do you think that the system is perfect? And the reason that I asked that question is because, quite honestly, it seems like everybody does think that it's perfect. Like maybe it is. Maybe I'm wrong. So what I want to do is I want to give you the facts, and then you put in the comments whether or not you think that the system is perfect or not. So I'm going to pull it up, and let's see. So here are the facts. So the first one is that according to the National Center on Education Statistics, 39% of college students, or people that enrolled in four-year colleges in 2014, okay, so 6 years ago, or actually 7 years ago at this point, only 39% of them actually earned a degree by 2020. So in 6 years, 39% of college students could not earn a four-year college degree. If you want to talk about the college loan debt problem, you really have to talk about how many people who took on debt actually finished their degree. Because if you want to say like, well, but with a college degree, you're going to earn more. Okay, but that's only if 100% or 99% of the people that go to college actually finish college. 39% of college students who started in 2014 did not finish by 2020. That's a huge number. That means 4 out of 10 college students never completed their degree. Here's another fact. The achievement gap between white and black students, so that's literacy and math, but we're gonna focus on both of those right now. So the gap in 2019 was 32 points on standardized tests. 32 points. Just so you understand, that's actually gotten worse over the last 30 years. In 1992, the gap between white and black students in literacy, because that's all they tracked back then, they didn't track math, but in literacy was only 24 points. So in 30 years, we've gotten worse. Student test scores have been declining since the 1960s, and there's multiple reports that actually report that. And 1 million teachers quit the profession at the end of the 2018 school year. That's according to the Wall Street Journal. Survey data says that lack of support is one of the major problems facing teachers in the system. That's according to Education Week. So I'm giving you all of these things. So hopefully my stream is coming through. Let's see. Okay. I had to fix the bit rate. So thank you for staying with me. This is where we're getting here. So hopefully you got all of those things. I'm gonna just briefly go back over them just in case. So again, the last piece was the survey data shows lack of support is one of the major problems teachers face inside the system. That's from Education Week. 65% of U.S. households earn less than 100K per year. That's from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The unemployment rate for high school graduates is 16.9%. That's also from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And in August 2019, only 62.5% of people over 25 were employed in America. Again, another stat from the US government. So what do you think? Do you think that the system is working? Do you think that the system is broken? Do you think it's perfect the way it is? Maybe it's perfect the way it is. I don't know. Maybe it's perfect the way it is. What do you think? Put it in the comments below. I want to know what you think. That's the whole point of creating this channel. That's the whole point of going live every week with this show. I want to try to start bringing things together. One of the things, so I'll just put it this way. One of the things that I'm really good at doing is, just. So as I was saying, so one of the things I'm really good at doing is putting things together. And one of the reasons why is because I have 21st century skills. And a report from Georgetown University Center on Education and the Workforce really put all of this in proof and in data, because I've been talking about these skills for the last 10 odd years, since 2009. When I developed the high performance teacher formula, when I developed the novice teacher development program, when I developed the novice teacher performance program, so all of these pieces, I also put together a 21st century curriculum map. We were one of the first high schools in New Jersey to ever implement a 21st century curriculum. And this is what was underneath all of it. So these are the 5 skills: leadership, team building, problem solving, sales, and communication. And the reason these skills are so critical, the reason they're so critical is because it talks about life, like the 21st century. If you don't have leadership skills, what are you going to do in your job? Jobs need people who lead. Jobs need people who are able to think critically. Now, that's the problem is, well, we have all this data. So we have researchers like Dr. Robert Marzano, Bob Ennis, Lauren Resnick, trying to think of some of the other names, Richard Paul. There's multiple researchers that I have looked at, and I have taken all of their research and said, okay, what do we do with all of this? And they all talk about higher order critical thinking skills. Now, for those of you that are not fully aware of that, we're talking Bloom's taxonomy. I don't have the graphic yet. I'm building out all of these things so that when I do these shows, again, week after week after week, I transitioned everything from Instagram over to YouTube, because that's honestly, this is where education happens. YouTube is YouTube University. Let's just put it that way. Instagram is great for promotions and video and whatever. It's just quick hits. You can't really discuss anything there. You can discuss things here at YouTube. And so what we really need to do is start putting all of it together. And that's what I'm good at doing. We'll go back to the 21st century skills. So problem solving is what I'm good at doing. It's solving the problem. So if we have all that data about the school system, that college students are not graduating from college, okay? So 39% of college students don't graduate. Well, that's bad. I mean, I can't even begin to describe how bad that is. Like I don't know what you do if 39% of students don't graduate from college. Like that should be a national crisis. Forget about college loan debt. You're not getting your degree. You're not even getting what you paid for. So you have $100,000 worth of debt, because getting a 4 degree means you have $200,000 worth of debt. So if you only finish 2 years, you're $100,000 in debt and you don't have a degree. You're never going to pay that off. That's the tragedy of $1.7 trillion of college loan debt, is that kids who don't have college degrees still have the debt. That's why this is a crisis. It's got nothing to do with anything else, and no one's talking about that. No one is talking about it. What we really need to focus on is not free college. Now, I agree. I love the fact that it's free community college. I think that's great. I don't have a problem with it. I think that's beautiful. But we should not be doing free college. We need to up the level of a high school diploma. See, the difference between United States society in 1965 and the difference in 2021 is in 1965, when you graduated from high school, you could get a well-paying job. You could make it with a high school diploma. You can't do that in 2021, and that's not because it's because the high school curriculum and the high school program is worthless. It's not the teachers and it's not the principals. It's our system. We don't teach 21st century skills. These are the skills. We're not teaching these. It's got nothing to do with financial literacy and computer skills and can you code. It's all irrelevant because those need to be specials. Absolutely. I think if we focused on these 21st century skills as a core of our high school experience, you could elect to take a coding class for kids who want to take coding classes. You can elect to take an honors or AP physics or biology or history or English. But kids should choose to go into those areas. What you need is a foundation of 21st century skills. You need to know how to be a leader. You need to know how to build a team around you so that you get the support that you need in the future. I don't know what you're going to do, and neither do you. So you need to be prepared for the next 60 years, because that's how long your career is going to be. If you're 14 or 15 years old, we're thinking so short term, well, I need to get into college. Why? Why do you need to get into college? Because your parents said so? Well, guess what? Your parents are too old already. Like, your parents are too old. They don't live in the 21st century. They're trying to make it, and most of them are struggling. Like I said, I'll go back to the data. 65% of U.S. households earn less than $100,000. So who are you going to trust? Now, I know you love your parents. I get it. I love mine. My mom's the only one still with us. My father passed away in 2009. So I get it. I understand. But here's the point. The point is that I have been doing this for 20 years. And for the last 10 years, I've been helping kids get 21st century skills. And my students are outpacing you with a college degree because my students have real world skills. They can communicate. What we're doing right now is communication. If you're not able to go on video, and a lot of you are introverts, well, guess what? I mean, this is the ultimate introvert. If you're an introvert, you get to talk to a camera. There's no people. If you're nervous about talking to a camera, you're not an introvert. Like, you have actual anxiety over everything. And I don't know how you deal with that. That means that we need a much better healthcare system than we have, because people are dealing with mental illnesses way more than we want to admit. Because if you can't talk to a camera, an inanimate object, like, yeah, that's a problem. It's a real problem. Look, this thing, it's not live. I'm talking to however many people, but it's not live. It is what it is. Now, teachers can't be introverts. They got to talk in front of a classroom full of kids. So if you have anxiety in front of kids, that's a problem. Kids are going to be like, oh, okay, we can run all over this teacher. And that happens. That's why I developed the Novice Teacher Development Program, which helps novice teachers in 30 days move from being completely nervous and anxious all the way to a top performer in 30 days. And the reason we can do that is because we're teaching the best practices that go on inside a school, inside a classroom. There's no guesswork. There's no that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. There are best practices that teachers need to know. That's it. That's it. So the question is, do you think that the school system is perfect or not? So I'm trying to I've solved the problem. So I'm here to tell you I've solved the problem. The answer really at this point is, do you want this solution? That's really the answer. I've already solved the problem. Problem with our K-12 system is twofold. That's it. There's only two things. One is that teachers need to know what they're doing. And right now, most teachers don't know what they're doing. That's not their fault. They need to be very, very clear. Teachers are smart and educated. They can figure it out on their own, but it takes too long. Experts say it takes about 5 years, 5 years for a teacher to become highly proficient and a high performer. That's too long because the data already says that 1 in 5 teachers quit the profession within the first 3 years, and Education Week already said that lack of teacher support is a huge problem. And the Wall Street Journal reported that 1 million teachers quit at the end of the 2018 school year. Well, guess what? 5 years is too long. So I'm able to improve teacher performance within 30 days. Now, I'm not saying that every teacher absorbs everything. No, because in 30 days, we are rushing through best practices. But if you take good notes, if you download all the things that you now have that for the rest of your career. But you have a greater understanding of the teaching profession and the practice of teaching, which is the book that I'm working on. Hopefully will be out in September. I'm hoping, not making any promises, because publishing a book is way harder than I anticipated. But that's the book that I'm working on, and there are 4 key areas to being a highly proficient teacher. That's it. High performance teachers do these 4 things so well that everything else falls into place. The first is high performance lesson planning. They're not lesson planning for principals. They're lesson planning for themselves. You have to lesson plan, but you have to have a curriculum map. So we'll get to that. Second is you need to know how to deliver that lesson plan in class. Being able to teach, deliver the content, the skills, what are we going to do in class is an expert level skill. That's a best practice. If you can't do that, if you can't deliver your lesson, you're going to have problems. And that's where students tune out. That's where low engagement, that's where teachers start talking about motivation. Any teacher that's telling me, so I've done over 10,000 teacher observations. Anytime a teacher tells me that they have difficulty with kids paying attention, staying focused, being motivated, kids not doing and turning in work, I automatically know that they're having a problem delivering the lesson. Now, the first thing I want to do is I want to look at the lesson plan and say, okay, well, is this structured properly? Are you going in the right order? Are you scope and sequencing this properly? Because if you are, then okay, that's great. Now we could put that aside. That is perfect, great. Now let's look at how you actually deliver the lesson. And that's when I do the observation and I watch and see, okay, I know that you have everything in your lesson plan. Now I want to know, are you getting it to the students? How are you delivering that? Are you being clear? Are you taking step by step? Are you helping students? Are you giving them the opportunity to learn, or are you just talking at them? Because if you spend 30 minutes talking at students, they're just going to tune out because it's not engagement. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. That's not engaging. I don't want to listen to you. You probably don't want to listen to this. Hopefully this is valuable and you're like, whoa, wait a minute. There's some secrets here that I can glean and go, oh, so that's why. Yes, that's why. If your students are not engaged, first you need to look at your lesson plan. Second, you need to then have observation notes as to how you deliver your class. Now, my observations were always data-driven and gave teachers what happened in class. It was not as subjective as some principals and superintendents are in their observations. I wanted to try to be as objective as possible so that the teacher could use the information as well as me be able to evaluate. Like there's no benefit to a teacher if the evaluation is 100% subjective. There's no benefit. And what's the point? Like my whole job is to help the teacher get better at being a teacher. That's my job. Like I don't know what else. I don't know what else any other principal is doing. I don't know what any superintendent is doing. If you're not focused on helping teachers develop their skills and their career, then you're misguided. You are not doing your job. So we just did lesson planning. We talked about delivery content. The third thing, and this is the missing link that many teachers don't get, is making connections. That's 3. So you have your lesson plan, you're delivering your class, and then in the class, for each individual student, you need to connect the content, the skill to the student. And once you make that connection, guess what happens? The aha moment, that epiphany where the student goes, oh, that's what you mean. That's every kid is sitting in class legitimately in a mystery novel, watching you do all of this stuff, and they're trying. So what what Pat Morita's character needs to do at that point is Pat Morita's character needs to bring it together, make connections, okay? So he's making the connections for Daniel, and he shows him, look, this is what we did. This is what we did. You did, wax on, wax off. That's blocking. You did up, down, that's blocking. Now you can do and it crystallized in his head. It's the epiphany. It's the aha moment. When Pat Morita made that connection, everything made sense. Everything. Sorry, I get choked up because when you're able to give a student a new understanding, it's a powerful moment, and that's ultimately why people get into education. That's why teachers dedicate their lives to kids. That's why principals and superintendents do this for 40 years, because ultimately when you can make a connection for a kid who is just starting out their life, it's a powerful moment because you can see the trajectory now. See, the problem that we have in schools is that there's no connections being made. So kids are sitting in class, they're just doing work. And doing work doesn't help them. Doing work just doesn't help them. We need to make connections. And so that's the third piece of the practice of teaching. And then the fourth piece is the classroom environment. There's 2 different parts of classroom environment. There's the physical, and then there's the social emotional. And the teacher is not a social worker. I need to make that so clear. A teacher is a teacher. We have really screwed up the entire teaching profession by putting so many hats on teachers' heads, and it doesn't work. A teacher needs to be a teacher. A social worker needs to be a social worker. If we're having trauma issues in a school, then you need more social workers. I don't know what else to tell you, but then you need more social workers. But there's a huge problem with the current curriculum. You don't have any time to do social work. That's why we've put so much on the teacher's head, is because the kids are in class so long and the teacher has so many things to do, and yet they're not doing anything of value. And that's not the teacher's fault. That's what we're forcing them to do. We're saying, yeah, you go ahead, do that, but it's not really going to be very valuable. So at the end of the day, this is what we're talking about. And I apologize for all of the technical difficulties here. I'm still waiting. I'm getting a hookup so that I can actually put the Ethernet into my computer. I'm using Wi-Fi. So I do apologize for all technical difficulties. If you are still with me, thank you so much. Please hit the like button if you like this already. You know, this channel is going to be about answering all of your questions. That's it. Any industry you're in, give me your problems. Well, I'm going to get the link in the description below. It'll be the problem link. You can go in, submit a problem, whatever it is, and if I choose it, please put your social media handle in it, because I will announce it. I will put it right on the screen so people can find and follow you. I have no problem promoting people. I have no problem doing that. I think that we are all in this together. We live in an American society. We have to start being neighbors. You know, there's a lot of things that were taught in the 20th century curriculum, which I wish kids knew about. But in all honesty, it's not live or die stuff. You know, there was a poem written that discussed, you know, good fences make good neighbors, but that's the irony of it. They don't, you know, they make separations. So good fences keep people separated. And what we need to do in American society in 21st century is we need to start coming together. We need to start finding our common purpose, and we need to start fixing our country. You know, there's a difference between fixing problems and complaining about problems. Now, the first thing you have to do is you first have to identify the problem. So I think we've done a really great job. We've identified the problems in our society. We know, look at number 3, okay? So problem solving. So we've identified the problems. Education is a problem. Healthcare is a problem. The way our government runs is a problem. Okay, so we've identified the problems. But once you identify the problem, now you have to have solutions. And unfortunately, no one has a solution except me. Now, I'm not a genius. I'm gonna say that. I'm not a genius. I just study things differently than most people. You know, there was an ad campaign, that Apple put out, which is, think differently. Well, I do think differently and thought differently way before Apple came out with their ad campaign. I've always thought differently. And that's always upset a lot of people, because when you do change, it is scary. Change is scary because you're like, well, I know the animal I have. I don't know the animal I don't have. And so you're like, well, I don't know how that's going to work, except that I've been doing this for 10 years now, and it's way better than anything that has ever been done before. I have the results to prove it, and that's it. And so when my staff did the 30-day program, and I'll put it, I'm going to put it back up here. So the Novice Teacher Development Program, that's for new novice teachers, your first year, second year, third year, fourth year, up to your 5th year, because experts say it takes 5 years for you to become, highly proficient. So this is for any teacher up to 5 years. Now, I don't have enough room to handle all teachers, novice teachers. I don't have a big staff. It's pretty much going to be me and a couple teachers that I know that are going to help me, that are very good, they're very experienced, and they're people that I have actually gone through this process. I know what they can do. I know what their level of lesson planning is. I know what their delivery methods are. I know that they have best practices in their classrooms. I know that they make connections for kids. I know that they handle classroom environment in the right way, which means that if you have 30 kids in a class, you don't worry anymore. Like, I know why teachers are stressed out. I know why they're like, oh my God, class sizes are getting so big. Yeah, they're getting bigger because teachers are quitting. If we don't fix that problem, class sizes can't get smaller. They have to get bigger. So the question is, can you handle a bigger class? And right now, the truth is you can't, because your skills aren't at that level. Like, if you're trying to get a lower amount of kids, you're still not reaching every kid. Like, don't fool me. Like, I mean, I know you're reaching the top 10% of that class. Why? Because the top 10% of every class, every teacher reaches, because they don't really need you. You're just a guide. You're just like, hey, this is what we're going to do. And they want the work and they want to do it and leave me alone. Because the top 10% of the classroom is the smartest kids in the world. So that's not the part of the class that you have to worry about. Yes, are you holding them back? You probably are. I mean, if anything, you want to really talk about the top 10% of the class, you're probably holding them back. So it's the 90% of the class, the rest of the class, that's a problem. And you're using the bell curve, so automatically I know you don't know what you're doing. If you're using the bell curve, I automatically know you don't know what you're doing, because the bell curve is against education. It's against kids. No kid should ever fail a class. If a kid is failing a class, that's on you. And I know you're like, but I've done everything that I know how to do. There's the aha moment. Everything you know how to do. What if you knew more? What if you had access to best practices that could help you not fail those kids? What if there were techniques and best practices that reached those kids? See, the question isn't what do you know? The question is, what don't you know yet? And that's what my 30-day program does, is it shows you so many things that you have never been exposed to, and I don't know why. The system just isn't designed to help teachers learn and grow. It's just not designed to do that. That's why it's a problem. That's why teachers have a problem. The system is not properly designed. Now, the question is the system perfect? I don't know. Put it in the comments below. What do you think? So again, I talked about there's second piece. So the second piece to solving this problem is the fact that we have to have a better curriculum. And the curriculum is, again, it's these 21st century skills. Now, in the elementary, you can't do this. So I'm gonna bring it back. So in elementary school, you have to focus on literacy and math. You have to focus on literacy and math. In fact, we probably don't focus enough on literacy and math in elementary school. We are got so many other things. Now, I think that you need to have specials work together. So in elementary school, you need art, you need music, but they need to be teaching literacy and math. You can teach math and art. What's paint by numbers? Oh, wait a minute. Boom. Yes. Kids should be doing paint by numbers in art. Why? Because they need to know their numbers. Otherwise, they can't do the work. You're reinforcing. So there are ways to put in literacy and math in music and in art. And elementary students need to do that. And again, PE is a big deal. Like we don't have time. We don't have throwaway classes. PE teachers in elementary are extremely important. Motor skills are extremely important. Being able to problem solve. So one of the parts of, my curriculum for PE in elementary was doing a full unit on obstacle courses. Kids love that. They're like, whoa, I have to go through. But those are critical thinking skills. Being able to navigate your way through an obstacle course are critical thinking skills. We need to start looking at what we do in school in a whole new way. I think we waste so much time when we have such great teachers, but we're just not focused. We're just not focused. So hopefully this all helps. Again, so my 21st century curriculum, I have an overview map. That's basically the starting point. If districts want a consultation, if you're, whatever, if you're a member of the public, call your superintendent, call your board of ed, tell them to email me or follow me right here on Twitter and Instagram at RewardsPro and just get in contact with me. I will talk to you. I'll do a Zoom call with you. We will go over all of these skills. This is the game changer. You have to change your curriculum. You have to do this. People want to talk about social justice. Well, guess what? Social justice has to do with leadership. Who's the greatest social justice leader ever? Dr. Martin Luther King. Do you think that he was worried? Do you think that he was worried about calculus? No, what he was worried about was economic opportunity for African Americans. So he needed to build his leadership, his team building, his problem solving, his sales, and his communication skills. I don't know how else to put that, but he was a master at 21st century skills in the 20th century. He was assassinated, he was murdered in the 1960s, yet he was better at 21st century skills than most high school graduates. We need to really rethink what's going on. This is no longer an option, this is a necessity. We need to teach these 5 skills, and the data and the proof and the backup. The reason that these are important is from Georgetown University's report, okay? Workplace Basics. You can look it up. Google it. Workplace Basics, Georgetown University Center on Education and the Workforce. It was published in 2020. It is the best report ever written on education and skills. I'm just saying that. It's the best report ever written because I've researched all the reports and I've never found anything so clear. Their communication is so good, it's on point, that you should read it. So these are the skills that they talked about. Leadership, team building, problem solving, sales, communication. And I know that makes people nervous. Because they're like, but what about English? What about math? What about social studies? You're not getting rid of those subjects. We need the subjects. But what are you teaching in the subjects? What are you teaching inside the subjects? That's the question. So if you're teaching the American Revolution, what about it? Are you teaching leadership? Are you teaching team building? Are you teaching problem solving? Are you teaching communications? Are you teaching sales? We live in a capitalist world. The fact that we ignore number 4, sales, the fact that we ignore sales in school is a mystery to me. Every kid needs to know how to sell something. They have to sell themselves. How are you going to get a job? Getting a job is not about having a resume. Yes, you need a resume. You need to know how to write a resume. Do we teach how to write a resume in school? No. Nobody in school is an expert on resume writing. Teachers didn't have to go searching for jobs. They searched for one job, and that was it. So they're not experts on job hunting. They got a degree in what they wanted to do. They got certified in what they wanted to do, and then they sent resumes to specific places that were only looking for people who had degrees and certificates in the thing they wanted to do. That's not looking for a job. That's looking to get hired. You already know what the job is. But most of the public, 99% of the public, doesn't have a degree in something that they're going to do and are not certified in something they're going to do. Well, that's looking for a job. Now you have to know, what do I put in my resume? How do I do this? How do I talk to the person who's going to be hiring? And then if you get the interview, how do I make them see the value in me? Well, guess what? 2 things. Number 4, sales, and number 5, communication. We're talking about communication. We're talking about telling your story. The first question most HR and hiring managers ask is, tell me about yourself. That's the first question. You know what your response should be? Your story. You know what you should learn how to develop in high school, in 12th grade, is telling your story. Who are you? Well, my name. So here's my story. My name is D. Scott Schwartz. Okay? I am a 20-year educator. I'm nationally recognized, I'm considered an expert insider in the K-12 system. Now, I've done every job in the system. I started my career as a teaching assistant, and I worked my way all the way up to my last post as superintendent. Now, I'm not like every other educator out there. What I am really good at doing is problem solving, and I love building teams and helping people grow and learn. So if that's what you want to do, and if that's what you need in your business, then you want to hire me. Because I guarantee that every single day you have a problem that doesn't get solved. Guess what? I'm the problem solver. Test me right now. What's a problem that you're facing in your company right now? That's what the link is for. Put it down, like submit your problem, and I will actually walk you through a solution. Like, how valuable is that in your company? How valuable is that in the job? Now, if you're a really good communicator, let's say you're going for a digital marketing job, well, what do you need to be able to do? You need to be able to do sales and communication. So on the list, let's do it. So on the list, that's number 4 and 5, right? Number 4 and 5, that's sales and communication. So you need to be able to say, what I can do for you as a digital marketer is that I know how to communicate the message of your company. 1, we can build a story. And then 2, I can show you ROI, return on investment, from what we're doing on digital marketing and social media. Now, as a company manager, that's exactly what you want. You want someone who's going to be able to deliver your message in a way that makes sense, clear, and then be able to show that the money you're spending, you're actually getting back as an investment. So if you're spending $1,000 on marketing and advertising, you're getting back $3,000 or $4,000 in revenue, or maybe more. But you need at least to get a return on investment. So these are critical skills. We can't shy away from them. There is no company in the world that cares whether or not you read Shakespeare. Sorry, there's no company in the world. But does Shakespeare have value? It has huge value if we teach it within a communications context. Within 21st century skills, William Shakespeare is very valuable because he's the greatest storyteller the world has ever seen. But we don't study his storytelling ability. We study his writing. Well, I don't know about you, but unless you're becoming a playwright, you don't need to study his writing. Now, if you want to be a playwright, that's great. You've been exposed to William Shakespeare, and so now you can go read Samuel Beckett, you can read Neil Simon, you can read Arthur Miller, you can read, Tennessee Williams. Like, there's so many other playwrights you can read. Now, I happen to be a playwright, so I love it. I'm like, oh, wonderful. I've had 2 plays on stage in New York, off Broadway, because it's impossible to get to Broadway. So I love reading plays. I love looking at scripts and stories and going, okay, what's the meaning in this story? I have multiple stories that I have in the background that I'm trying to work on, because it's all problem solving. Like, writing a story is solving a problem. And so it's a puzzle, and you have to put the puzzle together. What's interesting about writing a story from scratch is that there are no pieces. You're creating the pieces first, and then you have to put them together. It's kind of like what teachers have to do now with no curriculum maps. So teachers have to create the pieces, and then they have to try to connect the pieces. What I am saying is part of the problem is that's the problem. If we can give teachers the pieces and then just say to them, you're smart, you're intelligent, you're creative, you are professional teachers. Now put the pieces together in a scope and sequence that helps students learn. So at the end, they know what they're doing. And this is the 5 skills they need to know. They need to be leaders. They need to be team builders. They need to be problem solvers. They need to know how to sell who they are, and they need to be able to communicate ideas. Doesn't that sound great? Hopefully it sounds great. If it does or if it doesn't. If it doesn't, I want to hear from you too. I don't mind the negative feedback. Just be constructive. Don't be personal. Be constructive. Say, no, I don't agree. This is why. There's nothing wrong with having a different opinion and backing it up and saying, I don't agree. This is why. Beautiful. Because you know what? I don't know everything. I don't know everything. I have 20 years of experience, and I have seen way more problems in school than anyone I know. And anyone that I know knows. And I had 5,000 educators go through all of my development programs. I've been doing workshops, seminars, professional developments, teacher development, all for the last 10 years, and 5,000 educators. I have touched the lives of 5,000 educators, which means I've touched the lives of tens of thousands of students. Tens of thousands of students. So that's where we're at. I want to thank everybody. Again, this is the Novice Teacher Development Program. It is very limited. There's very limited space. So if you want to get involved, you're going to have to sign up for this right now. Again,